Welcome, everyone. We are live here. It's on Sports Spectrum on a Thursday night. My name is Jason Romano. I'm one of the hosts of our Sports Spectrum podcast and our Sports Spectrum radio show. It's always good to go live here and stream a little bit with all that's been going on. And tonight, we're really excited to welcome one of our guests, David Hess. He is the pitcher, one of the pitchers with the Baltimore Orioles, selected in the 5th round of the 2014 MLB draft out of Tennessee Technological University, baseball haven, as they say, right, David? Welcome
right.
to Sports Spectrum.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to get some time and just kind of chat for a little bit.
Yeah, this will be good. I'm glad that you're available. Obviously, you and I, not obviously for everybody watching or listening, but for you and I, we met at our conference that we were both attending and at the last few years, and just excited to kind of bring you on and learn a little bit about your journey and kind of what God's been doing. But right now, it's obvious that we're all kind of in this boat in the pandemic and the COVID-19 and the coronavirus. It's affected everybody in the world of sports. Let's talk about how it's affecting you. First of all, how are you and your family and everybody doing? Everybody safe?
Yeah, everybody's doing good for the most part, as far as I could tell. I think there's been a lot of communication, as I'm sure there is with everybody else right now. But really just kind of trying to take it in stride and just be adaptable and really just enjoy the time that we do get to have home, and all the time that I guess we do get to kind of focus on things outside of work and whatnot. But everybody's good, so very thankful for that.
This has to be the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you as a baseball player. And it's not happening to you. Obviously, it's happening to everybody, but you've played baseball a while here. You've been up and down minor leagues. You've been through the rigors, and I'm sure you have stories of life as a minor leaguer, and you've certainly been up in the major leagues and pitching for Baltimore. Nothing can prepare you for this, I presume, right?
No, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime thing, or we hope it's a once in a lifetime thing.
Sure.
Just, trying to kind of go just with how everything's shaping up. It's something that there's not really anything written out as to how this should operate, whether it's us being home or how does that look in terms of just baseball life, and then even everyday life. I mean, we just a couple of days ago got kind of a stay-at-home order, I guess, and more just shutting down businesses than anything else. And so I think everybody's really just trying to kind of cope with it. But in the baseball world, we're just trying to stay as ready as we can, and hope that this clears up and kind of fades out, but also we get back to playing baseball soon.
Yeah, I hope and pray for that too. Now, you're in South Carolina, so I want you to describe for the person watching and listening who doesn't quite understand how the baseball life works. Now, I know this because I know you and because I've gotten to meet a lot of baseball players, but take us all the way back to, say, early February, maybe late January for some players. What you guys were doing, getting prepared for a season, the transition as you and your wife moving down to Florida for spring training, like it's been the last few years, but then suddenly the abrupt happens and you got to kind of go back. So start back in like late January, early February, what your normal regimen is to get you ready for a season.
Yeah. So January, late January, we were really revving up and making sure that everything was kind of feeling good physically, making sure, all the things you've worked on in the off season are starting to come together. And so we got an apartment in spring training this year. So that started February 1st. And so we packed our bags and headed down there in the beginning of February, and kind of just started going to work. Spring training went through pretty much the whole thing. The early alarms and the grind of spring training and all that it is. And so we started kind of keeping up with everything and just a little bit of what this looked like overseas. For some reason, it kind of caught our attention, I think more than other people on the team at the time. And, I remember sitting there watching the Super Bowl and talking about the coronavirus. And so slowly and progressively, you kind of saw it creep up, and it became not just localized in China and Wuhan, but then it started to spread through other countries and into the U.S. And so really, I would say probably, I guess it was 3 weeks ago. Now that seems long.
It was the night the NBA canceled, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so I remember we were kind of sitting there trying to figure out what we were going to do if something was to happen. And sure enough, the next day we get in there, and our bus was supposed to go to Fort Myers to play the Twins, and it left and then came back 5 minutes later. And so that day we kind of knew something was up, and so we just kind of played it by ear at that point, and we stayed down in Florida for a few days, thinking that it wasn't going to be really the shutdown that has come of it. We didn't think it would be, I guess, as serious as it's become. And so then we ended up, kind of just taking it for what it was and said, okay, well, if we're going to be stuck anywhere, then we want to be stuck at home and in a place that, we want to be, I guess, rather than a rental apartment that we knew was going to be finished up in 2 weeks. And so we came home, got unpacked. And so since then, it's really just kind of been trying to work out and stay in shape as best as possible and be ready for, whenever they tell us.
What about Baltimore? If you were up in Baltimore or even in AAA, what would that situation have been like for you and your wife? Would you have had to report, find an apartment, place to stay? How does all that? That's what I mean by logistics when I want people to understand that it's not as simple as, oh, I got 3 houses in 3 different places and we just go there and everything's great. It's a lot of work, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, we had that apartment down in Florida. And so that was a big question is, at the end of this, month, whenever our lease is up, are they going to be able to extend it? Or are we going to have to go home? And then not to mention, we had a place lined up for, the time, hopefully, that I broke camp with the team. And so kind of dealing with the logistics of that, like you said. And so then on top of that, just kind of balancing what's going on at our house here in South Carolina. And so there's a lot of moving parts. And I mean, it's a pretty wild thing, but my wife's a superstar and she handles a ton of that stuff that I don't probably even know about half of it. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts going on, and it really is. It's great. It's really exciting to be able to do what we do, but there are certain things that kind of come with it that can be a little stressful in times like this.
David Hess is our guest here on Sports Spectrum, Baltimore Orioles pitcher. You mentioned your wife. I was going to let you brag on her. You kind of beat me to the punch because if these guys, so many baseball players and really football players too that I've met, their wives are the real rock stars in all this, aren't they?
Without a doubt. I mean, we were just joking around before we got on here about how pretty much they're the ones that set everything up and get everything done, and that could not be more true. I mean, just I feel like talking just with her, kind of the I guess group and family dynamic that's been set up with all the wives on the team, and I know not just on our team, on other teams, because as many people know, baseball can kind of, with trades and free agents and all that, it's a big melting pot sometimes. And so, I mean, she does a great job. I think that she handles everything great. And it's a stressful thing because we're out there playing and we get to kind of control, in a sense, a little bit of our future and what it looks like, but they don't get that. They kind of have to sit and watch and hope that things go well and be prepared for, I guess, kind of the aftermath if things don't, and just being able to kind of pack up and leave whenever. And it's tough. I think as players, we kind of get looked at in the light of things that we're doing, but they're really the ones that are handling so much more than I think people realize. And so Devin does awesome. I mean, I speak for, I think, all the wives, but I might be biased. I think she does a pretty excellent job.
I love it. We got to brag on our wives. I know
Absolutely.
Your walk with Christ is important to you. Obviously, we're the intersection of sports and faith. Tell me what the Lord's been showing you during this time, because you said baseball is sort of the I don't know what's going to happen type of situation. You just got to kind of be ready for anything. You're up, you're down, you're over, you're out, you're traded. Who knows? But in this time, there's really a lot of uncertainty. What's the Lord been showing you during this season?
I think there's a couple things, and one of them's kind of been a couple years in the making. That's really, I think, kind of been hammered down over the past couple days, past couple weeks. And really, that's exactly what you just said, with the uncertainty of everything and just life kind of being unexpected and sending you down roads that you weren't expecting to go on. I think he's really just been teaching me that he's in control, and that he's worthy of being trusted, that whatever's going on, he's not going to put it there if it's something that you can't handle with his help, and being able to lean on him. But at the same time, like just being able to kind of trust in that and walk that road and enjoy where he's leading you. It may be difficult at times. I think that we've had quite the journey the past couple of years, but I think anytime you get to the other side of whatever's going on, especially when you're able to look back, you can see all the things that God was kind of weaving together to get you to where you're at, whether it's something that you were supposed to learn at that time, or it's people you were supposed to meet, or things you were supposed to experience. Just trusting that through everything going on, the uncertainty and the chaos of everything, that he's working everything together for our good. And then on top of that, I think just on a more personal level, I think it's just cool to see when you sit down and you really have some time to spend time with God and just kind of ask him what he wants to show you, how he's really faithful in doing that. And so he's really been showing me that I can be comfortable just in who he's made me to be, and not just the abilities and the talents that we have, but kind of being able to take a step back from baseball. And obviously the circumstances for that are not ideal, but being able to take a step back and just kind of process through, like, okay, baseball is not my identity. Baseball is not what everything is based on. It's a gift that's been given, and I need to just be able to enjoy that and not make that too much, and understand that I can be comfortable in who I am, who he's made me to be, because that's exactly who I'm supposed to be. You know, he's given abilities and talents to everybody individually and uniquely, and that's something to be celebrated. And I think just seeing that play out in my own life has been really cool.
Yeah, I've heard people say this time away or isolated, whatever you want to call it, has revealed a lot of idols in different people's lives, because it's stripped away. You know, sports is stripped away, and all the comforts of just being able to go wherever we want is stripped away. Have you seen anything like that in your life or in your journey here with COVID-19? Just, you know, spending that time with God, but also realizing, oh, maybe my identity certainly is not found in anything but Christ, but maybe I'm kind of worshiping some different things here that needed to be taken away from me. Did that happen to you at all?
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, anytime you get time to just kind of sit and as God tells us too, that we don't get to do so much of in the world, just kind of be still. He does a lot of that. And so for me, I think you start to see what you're really valuing, like you said, and some things, you know, you start to see that people's opinions sometimes are ringing a little too loud in your ears. You start to see that the power that you're kind of giving to other people over you is something that really shouldn't be done. And I think in the baseball world, it's easy to do that because we can put up a post and have anybody who wants to comment on it. Sometimes that's not so uplifting, and other times it is. And so you got to take the good with the bad. But I think also, even with personal relationships, just being able to understand that if you put too much stock in those, then just the human nature in us, we're going to be let down by that. And that's not to say that that's not something that should be done, but I think you have to have a clear lens to see those things from, and see that, man, like, God's the only one that's not going to let us down. And so you can accept and you can love people, even when maybe they kind of rub you the wrong way a little bit. You can still love them and kind of mend some things that need to be mended through that. And so more than anything, I think that just being able to be still and kind of see that God is who he says he is. And that's something that we've kind of been reading through the Old Testament through over, I guess, the last kind of few months. It seems like it's probably the last few months, but probably closer to a year. And it's really cool to see kind of that dynamic of God, because I think everybody sees him as just this gentle, loving, kind God that you see in the New Testament, and he still is that. But I think you also see that he's a God that is just, and you see that he's a God that has to punish sin, but he did that on his son. And so I think it kind of helps you to see the gospel in a clear way, where you can really appreciate what grace has done for you and what you've been freed and delivered from through Jesus.
David Hess is our guest here. That's very well said. David Hess is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. So what's the COVID-19 workout regimen at home right now for you as you social distance like the rest of us? How are you staying in shape? How are you keeping it going here when you got to still kind of separate and not be around too many people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've made some connections with people in the area and facilities that have been able to keep their doors open for us. And so it's been a lot of little workouts here and there. My wife and her family, they live about 10 minutes away from us. We've all gotten together every day and done a little daily workout, which I think is probably just as good for us as it is for them.
Sure.
She's got a little brother and a younger sister. And so it's just been a lot of fun to kind of get time to do that. But then, I've gotten connected with a catcher in the area. So anytime I have a bullpen or long toss or something that needs to be done, he's been really, really great throughout all this. And so right now it feels like a puzzle a little bit, and you're trying to find the pieces to make it work for the bigger picture. And sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. We're in a pretty good area just in terms of the weather's been good.
Yeah.
It's not that cold here, which is really, really nice. And so we've been making it work one way or another, but it's just kind of little things here and there.
Does it feel like spring training extended, or does it feel like you're back in November, December, January in terms of where you are right now? Are you looking at it as extended spring training, or are you kind of looking at it as an off season part 2?
I think kind of both.
Yeah.
I feel like it goes back and forth. I just had this conversation earlier with my wife about how it feels weird right now, because one day I'll wake up and I'll say it's more of like a spring training field, and then the next day I'm like, but what are we don't know exactly the timetable we're getting ready for, so it's kind of more of the off season. And so I'm trying to view it more as an extended spring training to kind of stay ready, but also not doing too much right now, but being in a position where we can rev it up when it's time to go again. It's a little bit of a fine line, and I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit.
All right. So let me ask you what I asked. We had Jonathan Isaac on from the Orlando Magic last Thursday night. And so that's the NBA. It's a little different. But let's say tomorrow, and I don't think this is going to happen, but let's say tomorrow they say June 1st, baseball is returning. How long do you need to get ready to say pitch a game in major, in the majors with the Orioles or AAA or wherever? How much time do you think you would need to have before? He told me he needs at least 4 weeks for basketball of training, running around and everything before they could even think about playing in a game. What's it for a baseball player?
I would say it kind of depends on your position a little bit. So in spring training, I was working as a reliever. And so I was throwing a max of, probably 2 to 3 innings. And so for me, I feel like I could probably be ready in about 2 to 3 weeks, just assuming everything continues to stay lined up and nice in terms of being able to get my work in and stay in shape and whatnot. I know starting pitchers might be a little different because they have to. I've done that through the majority of my career, and so it might take them a little bit longer. I don't even know for hitters so much because I've not done that.
You're not a hitter. You're a pitcher.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, depending who you are, kind of what you've been able to do, I would say probably 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, that's about right. So that's what I figured. It's very similar because you've already been training and practicing and for the NBA's sake, been in games. All right. Before we close this part down, I'll put you on the spot. You don't know, and I don't know, but just for fun here, how soon do you think baseball will be back? Do you think there'll be baseball in 2020? I've heard people arguing on both ends. We honestly, truly don't know, but what's your gut tell you?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to play this year. I think across the board, and talking with other guys and kind of seeing how they're doing through it all, everybody wants to play. I mean, this is something that it kind of feels weird not having that going on right now. I'm not used to being home at this time of the year.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing this interview, David. You should probably be playing a game right now, but that's all right.
Yeah, but no, I do think that we'll play. I think there's been a lot of talks about kind of depending how the virus goes and everything. I think there's a couple ideas that have been thrown out there and plans in place to go accordingly. But I feel like baseball is going to be happening in 2020.
Well, as a big baseball fan, I'm hoping there is, and I'm hoping we'll be seeing you out there too, David Hess. All right, I'm going to pivot here because we got a few minutes left, and I really want to take this interview into Nerdland because I know you're a big Star Wars fan, and so am I. So let's talk a little Star Wars while we're at it. Let's just go. It doesn't have to be rapid fire, but we'll talk a little bit about Star Wars. Let me ask you, ranking your first of all your 3 favorite Star Wars movies. There's been like, I don't know,
Okay.
11, I think, 11 movies out there, 11 or 12.
Uh,
What is your 3 favorite?
So I think the safest thing is probably to pick one from each trilogy.
Okay,
So I'll
that's
go
fine.
with that. Out of the first 3, I'm going first 3 in terms of what actually, not the actual
As in
production date.
episode 4, 5, and 6. We're talking
Yes,
about.
I'm going to say episode 3 was my favorite of that series. I don't think that's too debatable.
Revenge of the Sith. Okay.
Yes, Revenge of the Sith. I think in the next, I think Empire Strikes Back was my favorite.
Okay.
And
of the new ones that just released,
the new ones are tricky because there's been a lot. There's a little bit of things I like about each one and things I don't like about each one.
Yeah.
I think The Last Jedi. I know it had its things, and I'm full on that. But I think the next movie really cleared up some stuff. I think it kind of shed some light on certain things that needed to be. So I think that's where I stand with it.
Okay, so I'm going to give you mine. My number one Star Wars movie of them all is Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
So I'll take Empire. That's my favorite, and then I'll
Yeah.
take Episode 4. So I'm going to go.
Okay.
We're going to shut out some of these other movies. I don't mind, but Episode 4 is my second, which was the original 1977 Star Wars movie. And my third might surprise some people. I think it's Episode 7, which was The Force Awakens, which was the first of the new ones with Rey and those guys. Han Solo was in it as an older guy, and Princess Leia. I thought Episode 7 was a throwback to the old movies that I grew up with in the 70s and 80s. And I like Last Jedi. You know, a lot of people didn't like it. When I first walked out of there, my brother had this opinion that it was the worst Star Wars movie ever. Like they did Luke wrong, and they did all these characters wrong, and they never solved the whole Snoke thing, and they just killed them, and that was it. And if you don't watch Star Wars, sorry that you don't know what we're talking about. But he didn't like Last Jedi at all. I liked it. And then when I thought the third one came back, The Rise of Skywalker, just a couple months ago, I thought that made The Last Jedi an even better movie.
So that was my thing too. I when I walked out of The Last Jedi, I thought the same thing. I thought that they kind of dropped the ball a little bit in certain areas. I thought the whole Leia just cruising through space after she had died thing.
That was bizarre.
I kind of just threw my hands up, and but I think that, like I said, I think The Rise of Skywalker really cleared stuff up. I think that really shed some light on not just that scene, but I think it shed some light on theories that with Snoke, what was going on and everything. And so that was another one of my biggest issues is I was like, well, we don't know who Snoke really was. And then I'm big into even like the fan theories and really what the comics I haven't read the comics, but I keep up with kind of what they say in terms of what's important in the movies and stuff.
Sure.
And it seemed like, I mean, Palpatine kind of pulled the strings on Snoke, and I think the comics kind of helped bridge the gap a little bit, because that was my biggest question in Rise of Skywalker is, if this is such a big thing going on, like Palpatine coming back, like how did nobody know about this? How did he get there? Like who's kind of orchestrating all this? How did he create this grand army? But and so
it sounds like he was like the puppet master for the last 30 years or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of directions they could go with it, and so I think that's the cool thing about Star Wars. I think especially the way that they kind of left it with the newer movies is you could kind of fill in a little bit of stuff based on your own theory, and so I like that. I think some people might get a little carried away with it, but
Well, I think, there's a lot of traditionalists, like people my age and that grew up on the original 3 movies that thought these movies were Disneyized and, Disney got a hold of it and they ruined the script. I don't think that was the case. Could they have been better? Probably. That's why I think Episode 7 was maybe the closest to the original Star Wars movies. I thought 8 Last Jedi was good. I loved bringing back Yoda, and I loved Luke being there. But, again, Luke was like this angry guy, but all of a sudden at the end, I thought the redemption part for Luke was great. Episode 9, I just thought was crammed. He crammed in a lot in 2 hours and whatever it was.
Absolutely.
I was hoping that I'm going to pivot here a little bit more to Avengers. I don't know if you're an Avengers guy. So I thought
I'm a big Marvel guy.
same here. And I thought Avengers Endgame was so well done and what I would call an ode to the fans. And my hope was that the last Star Wars movie would be similar to that. It was just an ode to the fans, and it would be longer. They could have made that 3 hours. And
Absolutely.
I thought they did the best they could with that. It certainly was not nearly as good, in my opinion, as Endgame or an Avengers movie. But I thought they did a good job. I thought they tied up a lot of loose ends, and I thought they did Rey right. What did you think about the way that sort of that character of Rey was redeemed at the end?
I thought it was really cool. I thought that was I'm with you in the sense that I think that they tried to appeal to fans a lot, and I think they took a safe approach to the way they finished it. I think that it was, and I'm okay with that. I think that the way that things kind of shaped up, and they had to tie up some loose ends on certain aspects, and so I'm good with the way they ended that. I thought that the way that, especially kind of with her, anybody who hasn't seen it, if you're watching this, then
come on, it's April, people. It was out in December.
But her being a Palpatine, I thought, and kind of pushing back against that. I mean, I know we're not necessarily in this topic, but I do think that there was a lot of kind of faith-related aspects that I saw it through that lens. So I thought that was really cool in that sense as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the book I wrote on forgiveness, I actually related a lot of the Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker relationship to faith and to redemption and to even forgiveness. And because even though it's a movie, we can all relate to that thing that we've struggled with someone, and then all of a sudden we have that empathy and we have this forgiveness thing come together. And that's kind of really the theme of redemption is throughout the Star Wars movies. All right, last question on Star Wars. Your thoughts on The Mandalorian, which I think is phenomenal on Disney Plus. What did you think of the Mandalorian?
I thought they did it perfect. I think that they started it well. They immediately got you interested in it. They had a couple episodes in there to where, they're in Tatooine, they're on Mos Eisley, like they're doing all sorts of cool stuff to appeal to so many different audiences. And then I've watched even the cartoons, and so and so to see the Darksaber show up there at the end, I thought that was really cool. I think they did a really good job balancing it to where you got answers to certain questions, and they built up characters, and now you still want to know more. And so I think season 2 is going to be really cool. I've heard rumors that Ahsoka is going to be thrown in there, so pretty excited about that. But I thought that was I look forward every week to a new episode, and I wish that it was longer than 20 or 25 minutes, but that was good.
The Clone Wars, my daughter's 15, but we've been watching the Clone Wars since she's like 6 years old. And now that Ahsoka's back and the show is back on, she's ecstatic. So this has been good. Absolutely. Like a little nerd out here for us, David. I like this, that we were able to connect this way. This is good.
Gotta have it.
All right. So speaking of nerds, as we wind down, this is the last thing I'm going to ask you. You mentioned on social media that you've had a little bit of extra time now having this whole quarantine coronavirus thing going on. And you've been trying to take your crack at the guitar, is what I hear.
Yeah.
So do you have a guitar near you? I'd love to hear what you've learned in your little guitar lesson experience here.
Yeah,
all right.
That was actually set over here, and there's even a pic. My wife kind of set me up.
That's all right. We're live. Let's go. We're good. Oh, look at this.
We don't know much.
Okay.
But
you got a guitar. That's a good start.
Yeah. So I'll kind of give the option because I don't know much. I know what I've kind of makeshifted out of the Batman theme song and 9 to 5. So I'll kind of let you decide which one you want to hear for a couple seconds.
All right. I'll let you play it and we'll decide whatever it sounds like. How's that? How about the Batman theme? We'll pick that.
All right. We'll go with Batman first.
All right.
That wasn't very good. I kind of messed up right there, but
Batman.
That's all right. You get the gist of it.
That's the old school Batman theme from like the 60s.
So we haven't really picked up a ton of chords yet, and so I just kind of started messing around, and I was like, that kind of sounds similar, but
Yeah.
I didn't nail it exactly the way I should. So.
All right. What's the other one again? 9 to 5, you said?
9 to 5 by Dolly Parton.
Yeah, working 9 to 5. All right.
All right. So we'll go.
I don't know the words, or I would have started singing with you. But that's pretty good.
Hey,
not bad.
It's a start. It's not too bad. So hopefully by the time the season rolls around, I'll be able to play a little bit more.
Well, hopefully the next time we see each other in person, if it's not at a baseball game, we'll be at the conference that we've met the last couple of years, and maybe we'll just invite you up. By that time, you'll be able to play some worship. What do you think?
Maybe. I'm going to have to definitely practice between now and then, but that would be pretty cool.
That'd be cool, right?
As long as they don't want me to sing. I don't think anybody wants to hear that.
That's amazing. That's funny. Now, your wife, just real quick before we say goodbye, she's been working with you on this guitar thing, right?
Yeah, she has. So we got 2 guitars, and she actually, the one that I have right now, I think it started out as mine, but it turned out that this one is a little bit, I guess, more forgiving, and it sounds a little bit better. So she adopted this one as her own, and I got the other one. It's a little different style. It's a concert style guitar, so it's a little bit more challenging, but she's doing really good with it. I think the advantage that I say I have is my hands are a little bit bigger, but hers are smaller. So she's making do with it really well. And I think pretty soon, we'll be able to get a nice little jam session going in the house.
Duet. Who are you learning from? Are you watching YouTube videos, or do you have friends that play the guitar? Or yes?
So one of the guitars, I guess I'm going to give a little plug here for them, but I didn't even. We bought a Fender guitar, and there was a sticker on it that said something about Fender play, and so that's what we've been following. It's just an app that you download, and you kind of type in a little bit about what you want, what style of music you want, and so they just kind of work through progressions with you. We started out just with learning what the guitar was and what different parts of it were, and so then we started learning some notes, and so now we're starting to work into chords. So the challenge is starting to kick up a little bit, but we're really enjoying it.
I love it. I think we're going to have somebody said, Justin Labor is commenting on Facebook and said that there's going to be a post-game concert at the Yard this year featuring Devin and David Hess. How about that, huh?
I mean, if it's a follow-up to last year, they had some pretty good people coming out. So, I mean, I'm just trying to work on something, I guess, on the side. So
I love it. I love it.
Everybody asks what hidden talents we have, and I can never answer it. So maybe
you know how to do more with a guitar than I do. Let's put it that way. So you're already ahead of me. So thank you, David. This has been great, man. Thanks for all the time. Thanks for doing this and having some fun with the guitar and talking some Star Wars.
Sure.
And listen, we wish you nothing but the best. Have a great season. Hopefully, we do have baseball. Stay safe, and we'll get you back on, and we'll talk a little bit about what this season was like, hopefully at the end of the year. So thanks for joining us. Say hi to your wife, and all the best to you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.